You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
Howdy, folks, everyone out there across the fruited plains. My name is Ben Keech, and this is the Ben Keech Show. And I hope life finds you well as we kind of delve into another element of life and relationships and all those fun types of things. In episode 17 times I've done this. It's crazy thinking about it. And last week had some funny commentary with some folks about that, which I wasn't surprised because I've heard all sorts of things. So again, I love your comments, whether you leave it on the YouTube channel or text message. I'm all over social media. Maybe get a couple of don't forget about Instagram. Those reels on Instagram have been pretty popular lately. We're trying to release a couple every day. I have my partner, who is Tiana. She is my niece, and she is releasing those reels on TikTok and Instagram as much as she can. And if you can get on there and check some of those stuff out, I would appreciate it. But today, episode 17 is going to be what's wrong with how women pursue men. What's wrong with how women pursue men? Now, I was going over topic ideas with my daughter, and she's always going to tell me how it is. She's like, Dad, that's a short episode. Nothing. And then we of course laughed. And then she said, "Oh, I know what you're gonna say." It's like, "What am I gonna say?" And she's like, "You're just gonna say women shouldn't pursue men." I was like, "You're so smart, Mallory. I raised you so well." And she rolls her eyes and laughs, and there we go. So we'll go a little bit more than that. But what's wrong with how women pursue men? Now, I'm not saying that in this kind of topic that women don't have tricks up their sleeves to communicate certain things to guys. And guys, here's sometimes your issue. Like, you let your insecurities get in the way way too often. You're sensitive, or she hurt your feelings, and like you need to get over all that stuff. Like, here's the deal. Like, women are going to tell you no. It's not a woman's job to make you feel all strong and safe all the time in your own self. Like, women are not attracted to those kind of guys. Women are attracted to men that believe in themselves. And again, not some false bravado, not some annoying arrogance, but men who are like, "Yeah, you're not interested in me. No problem." I actually think a lot of times, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but it's about relationships, that in relationships, if I'm pursuing Susie, and I don't think I've ever pursued a Susie, so I think I'm safe to say, no, I'm just kidding. Just bad jokes. If I pursue Susie and Susie says, "Ben, you are not for me," she did not just put me down. That's not even a rejection. Like, well, she said, I'm not for everybody, and neither is she. This is how romance and dating and relationships work. None of it's negative. None of it, unless you are a jerk. Rejection is not bad. Rejection is actually good. We've talked a couple episodes about marriage and marriages falling apart. Like, not everybody's meant for everybody. You like somebody, if you're not man enough to ask them, or you're worried about her hurting your feelings, boo-hoo. Like, it's okay. And don't even be mad at her about it. Actually thank her for it. I never will forget, my dad had a kind of a famous line to me that I'll never forget. There was a girl I was pursuing, and it ended up not working. And when it didn't work, and I told him about it because he had kind of followed this along with me a little bit. And his only line back to me was, "Thank God." Like, literally, thank God. Like, it's not like when someone tells you no, thank you. It's not personal. A lot of times we make dating too personal, and then it kind of messes up our mojo. If you understand what I'm saying. So, okay. So getting back to how women pursue men, I don't think women should pursue men. I think men should pursue women. But that would be a boring podcast episode, and I'm not ready to close the door on this one yet. So let's go into some other things as well on that topic, okay? Let's first say this to the women. When you put yourself out there, I think that the thing that's hard for women when it comes to dating, it's not necessarily the guy that is only after one thing. I mean, unless you fall for it, and it's like, yeah, okay. It's more that women have to also give themselves a chance, the opportunity to be rejected, for them to be not interested. And that's deflating. I know I was being all tough and all this stuff to the guys, and my tone could come across a little bit different to women. And this is why women have to be careful about leading in this way. That's why I'm not a fan of women leading the relationship in the sense of like driving the cart just for him to say, I'm not interested. He will show his interest. He will play his cards when you allow him to do that, and you keep the power by reacting and responding to what he's saying, and then more importantly, what he's doing. But what can happen in this is you can open yourself up, you can open your heart to possibly be connected in a way, and then to find out he's not interested. Again, thank you. It's the same mentality. It's tough. It's tough because we put ourselves into it, and that rejection just feels horrible. It's not meant to be rejection. It's meant to say, this isn't meant for us to be together forever and ever. We already know, if you had an opening conversation with somebody and you're dating, we already know that not everybody's meant for everybody. If you open up a line to somebody and say, well, how do you believe in soulmates? Or do you believe that there's one person out there? Or do you believe there's whatever you believe? Like, everybody is basically going to say there's a very, very small percentage of people that any one person can marry and be happily married. That's a small number. So just because you're not that number, it's not personal. And that's what we're trying to figure out. So the kind of the trick, I think, in dating is you have to put yourself out there. And I've talked to a lot of women who just get nervous about this and scared about this because there's a piece that's vulnerable and the idea of getting rejection. Give yourself the opportunity to be rejected. It's okay. Both ways in that way. Okay. The other thing I would say with a woman's approach to pursuing men, and I'm going to use like a passive form of the word pursue just so my brain connects with it better, is what do you want out of this week? Let's break this down on a timeline. What do you want out of this week? Well, maybe a date, maybe a phone conversation, maybe be careful of the good mornings, good evenings too early. I'm not going to go back down that pet peeve road, but what do you want out of it? You need time to talk. Talking is the only way to get information that's actually valuable. So in that first week, okay, be nice to have a date. If he asks, I'll say yes. I'm not asking him. If he asks, I'll say yes, but the goal is talking and communicating. If he's a good man, he's going to pay for whatever it is, whether it's a cup of coffee or a basted egg, whatever. Then, okay, that went well. Okay, what's number two? Now, this is where it gets this is where it's really tricky to be a woman, because a needy guy or an insecure guy, well, he's looking for 500 signs that she likes him. And we like signs, by the way. It's not that you can't give signs that you're interested in somebody, but I would discourage women from having to show 15 different ways why she would love a second date. Just like pick a couple subtle ones, and that should be good enough. And again, if he's not secure enough in himself that he needs, then just that's a red flag. Just be careful about that. So the next step is there a date two, or what's going on in the future? And again, you need time to talk. talking and understanding and seeing how one responds in situations, how they live their life, what are their goals, what are their values, do those values match up? If they don't, is it irreconcilable, or is it something, and you're just evaluating those things. And I think that is to keeping that at the forefront in terms of how a woman pursues a man. Talk to him. And men, I'm just letting you know, and again, we've talked about this in other episodes, the way that we talk to them isn't about talking about us. I will say, though, it is really nice when a woman does reciprocate those questions. Well, tell me about your kids. Tell me about you. People like questions. Doesn't matter their gender. People like questions. And so, really kind of keep remembering that and delving into that. Questions get answers, questions get information, and that's helpful in trying to determine where this goes. Okay, so a couple kind of things for the females of the world to think about. Don't be afraid in a situation that you've evaluated that it's okay in a dating context to show a sliver of vulnerability. Vulnerability, and let me kind of define what I'm meaning by that. Vulnerability is a soft, sensitive, maybe even scary part of something inside of you. It's not necessarily sharing everything about your life. Sharing is not vulnerability. Sharing is good, but it's not vulnerability. Vulnerability is when a man's asking questions, when a man's in pursuit, don't be afraid to give him a little bit of your heart. Now you say, well, that's risky. That's scary. He doesn't deserve that. Maybe, but you're doing it for two reasons. How does he respond? Can he handle it? Because a lot of times when a woman shows that, he's either going to listen or he's going to lecture. If he's listening, he's going to ask follow-up questions. He's going to try to get to understand better what's going on. He hears what you're saying. He almost feels what you're saying and wants to know more. Well, explain this to me. Tell me, I don't understand this part. Tell me what this means. Unfortunately, sometimes, and this is the information you're trying to gain, women, does he go into lecture mode? Well, I wouldn't have done that. Well, I think this is, and just skips over the emotional connection you're trying to have and just goes into this mode. It's not good. It's probably not what you want, right? No, nobody wants that. But that's why you give that sliver to gain information and to see how that response is. Because a man that is a good listener, a man that is hearing your words, but also kind of feeling your heart, that's probably something that most women want. And so that's why you're testing the waters, and that's how you're testing the waters. Okay. The other thing that you have to consider when a woman pursues a man, this is really advice for the guys out there. There's women, generally speaking, want substance. They want to know the depth that a man has and just who he is as a person. Or is he really surface level? In the dating world, women unfortunately run across a lot of surface level men they don't want to pursue. So my advice, and it's kind of ends up being kind of twisted advice more for the men, is think about substance versus surface level. Substance, why you believe what you believe, how you might react in certain situations, communicating that, which sometimes is difficult, putting yourself out there a little bit. That's what she's trying to figure out. She doesn't care that I go to, 10 Chiefs games, which of course there's nothing wrong with that, except when there was wide receivers can't catch the ball. What we're talking about here is, can we get to that point at some point in time? Now, I will tell you, there's some women that I've met that are really good conversationalists that we can kind of joke and jive and bounce ideas back and forth. And it may be very surfacey, but it's also can be very fun, and with even kind of sometimes even an element of flirtatious, like just kind of good energy. That's fine. But at some point, you'll need the substance if that's important to you. If it's not, then, there's plenty of people out there that, that you might be better apt to meet. But if that's what you're looking for, women, then these are the types of conversations that you want to have, which is why that piece of advice is honestly probably more directed toward the men than the women. The other thing I would say, and this is a big thing that you can even see even in the first month of really getting to know someone, is just like how they control. Nobody wants to be controlled. Nobody wants to have, especially when you first met someone, but really no time. Like a beautiful relationship is where both people allow each other to be free within the relationship. I'm not trying to make you a certain way. Now, I may express something that's important to me, but I'm not here to control. I'm not here to make you do anything. I want you to be everything that you are. And yes, there'll be times of compromise. And yes, we have to hear each other communicate. But a lot of times, we're talking about how a woman pursues a man. It can look controlling. It can feel controlling to the man. That's not going to go well. And then what happens, I think, invariably is, and I think part of this is instinctual, is it can also look like how a mom talks to a son, how a mom controls a son. Men aren't wanting to date moms. They're wanting to date women who they love, who they care about. So it's important that the control aspect of that has to subside. I think a really interesting way that I see this just in my own life and my own relationships is a woman who can major on the majors and minor on the minors, to me, and I'm sure a woman would say that about a man as well, is extremely attractive. I have my own perception of what's really important and what's not important. In a dating situation, you want to line those things up as best as possible, because then what happens is she thinks all of these things are a big deal and he doesn't think any of them are. It's going to be a lot of tension. You got to see that. It's important to evaluate those things. That's what you're trying to do in the learning process of dating. What's important to you, what's not. And if those things aren't matched up correctly, it's going to be difficult unless there's a heck of a lot of compromise, which can, but it's important. Any married couple would recognize this potential dilemma, and what is a major thing that's important. You need to talk about those things and come early. What's really important to you. That does connect to values, but it also connects with simply how they view, even if it's from having a clean house, or how you speak to your kids, or maybe little things like, I don't know who chooses the restaurant you go to. It's not the best example, but just having understanding on those things is super important. Okay, let's continue moving towards the parenting advice. And one of the things I think with my parenting advice, and this is going to be to moms, to their daughters especially, is how does a woman view a man? Now, a lot of times when a woman has been burned by a man, that is going to skew or adjust how she communicates that to her daughter. So what we want to avoid are all men are. Men never do this. Men are incapable. Those are like, daughters, if your mom's talking like this, it's bad advice. There's no such thing as all when it comes to anybody. There's no such thing as never when it comes to your father. Your father never. Okay, that's not true. Whatever you're talking about is not true. So my advice to the moms and women, and when you're communicating to the younger generation about men and how we view them, how we look at them, or even on some levels, how we pursue them, we want to be very careful with our vocabulary. And what's healthy is we're not trying to set a stereotype for her on how she views it, and she doesn't even have the same experience as you do. How is that fair to any man that she meets in the future, to already having had this like this manipulated untrue version of what men are? So your hurts, women, the ways you've been burned in the past, that's yours. That's you. And that's probably connected to just a couple of men. Guess what? There's millions of us out there, and there's a lot of different versions of us. And there's no such thing as all, and there's no such thing as never can do. That's not an accurate statement. And it's very unhealthy for you to create this mentality within your children about this over dramatized negative picture of what men are. And as a matter of fact, I would say it's a great gift you can give. If we're talking about your daughters, it's a great gift you can give to your daughters to articulate that, yes, these things happen sometimes, but there's a lot of great men in my life. I have met some of and communicate that, because all women have met these amazing men, whether they married them or not, whether it could be their brother, their dad, a coworker. There's amazing men out there, and don't model from the most hurt place that you've had to experience a man. It's really important. That's the parenting advice for today. My song today is from he's done a number of really cool songs, a guy named Anderson East. And the name of the song is What a Woman Wants to Hear. What a Woman Wants to Hear. And so I say that for the song for this kind of segment is when I'm talking about a female pursuing a man, let's change that a little bit. What do you want to hear? What do you want to be and feel within a relationship? How do you get there? And there's a line in the song that I really liked. It says, and again, this, talk about tomorrow like it's a real thing. Talk about tomorrow like it's a real thing. If you're trying to control and you're trying to connect all the dots, this is what you want. You want something that lasts. You want something that's amazing. You want something that's special. If you think you can control every aspect until that point, you're wrong. It's not going to work. If you want a man to talk about tomorrow like it's a real thing, then he needs to do what a man does. If he wants to pursue something, then let him. Listen to him. Look at his actions. Don't look at the man as, here's the best 20% of him, I just need this 80% to change. It's not going to happen. Well, I can make it happen. I can teach him. I can show him. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, all people, men included, are on a spectrum of good and bad. Dating candidate, not dating candidate. You got to get into the upper echelon if that's what you want, and then you got to let him do that work, and then you do your work. It's not more important or less important, but you're not going to manipulate, force, make any man say that to you. You just got to be in the right pool with the right ones who look at you and see you in a particular way, and you see them in that way, and then allow the magic to happen. And that's how this works. So I'm sure there's all sorts of thoughts on this. I get in some interesting discussions sometimes with people talking a little bit more specific with the masculine feminine thing, and there's a big push out there for, we're just two human beings, we're just two people. While that's true, it's not true. You are not just two human beings. Men are different than women. We look at things different, we react differently, we have different things that are important. There is a beautiful meshing when it comes to this, but this whole idea that it's just, we're just two human beings trying to do a 50-50 lifestyle on this planet that we call Earth, barf. That's not accurate. I mean, in a basic sense it is. I mean, it's true, but you can't take away the importance of our gender and what it means in a relationship. I am telling you, I have talked to thousands of people about this, and I can tell you, as true as I am sitting here, that there is literally a very consistent mentality that men have and that women have and what they want and how they look at things. And it's different. And that difference is what makes it amazing and what makes guys like me talk about it on the podcast. So anyway, this was episode 17, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. If you agree, disagree, have thoughts, always love any extra communication. It's great. I hope you and your relationships move in a wonderful, positive direction. Yeah, I thought about being like a coach and different things like that. It's just not really I don't know if it's my cup of tea, but I do love helping people and talking to people. And there are some people that I talk to about their relationships and their life. And I find a lot of joy in that. I just don't have a lot of time to do that as a professional job, but I really and truly want the best for people in their relationships, whether you agree with me or disagree. My heart and my attitude is for you to experience the best that you possibly can. So I hope you feel that. I hope you know that. And I care about you guys and want things to go in the best way possible. So thanks for tuning in today. And I can't wait to talk next time we get into some stuff with parenting and children and moms and dads and all those fun things. So talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.